saying that he's finding throughout Europe awareness of this, and we know it's certainly carried on in the Roman Catholic Church, but he finds it in the Middle East as well. And that's right. Allah, in Hebrew, there's a similar Hebrew word for God, and it is A'el. A'el. A-E-L. And believe it or not, Baal, B-A-A-L, Baal, that had a positive connotation originally. It got perverted and took on a false god connotation, and we think of it based on the scriptures, Old Testament, so that those who worship Baal, that was a terrible thing. Okay, but it originally was not used in that sense. So it took on a very bad and negative connotation today. But there's strong similarities. Allah, El, Baal. It all revolves around, for us today, in phonetically speaking Hebrew, it would be El. Okay? And if you have a King James Version, a Schofield Bible, you can go in the back and look at the list of names, proper names in the Bible, and you'll go to E-L, and you'll see many compound Hebrew names that have a word connected with El. Eliezer. Eliezer, that's a Hebrew word signifying some feature of El, that is God. And the ancient Hebrews who were godly, they wanted their children to have names that highlighted a particular feature of God. Eliezer is a good example. And you'll find that any number in that, maybe a whole page of proper names that just deal with El compounded with some other name. And then you look those names up, or look in that list, and it gives you the English. It's a very fascinating study, and it gives you an insight. There was a body of Hebrews who were godly, and they very proudly were broadcasting their identity with El, that is God. All right, Rich, thank you, Richard, for that reference to this. The New World, so this Tammuz child business, Semiramis, that could be the common denominator that pulls it together. They don't give up Islam. They just simply recognize we have a common heritage, a common origin, and we're calling it Allah, you're calling it Maitreya, others are calling it Jesus, but it all comes back to the original story of the miraculous birth of this child. All right, so that they see this common or universal brotherhood. And then there's a New Age Christ. So these are the three aims. One world government, one world false religious system. This binds the whole system together. And worship directed to what? A New Age Christ, the first beast or the Antichrist, Revelation 13, 1 through 9. Now there are two beasts in Revelation. The one beast is the false prophet, the other beast is the Antichrist. But with each of those two persons is a beast, which is the one world government, and the other one, the false prophet, has his system, his one world false religious system. Okay, so these are the principal aims of the New Age movement, or the new gospel, or the new spirituality, as we have just read. Now, we're going to have a little quiz. Who is this man who won the Lenin Peace Prize from the old Soviet Union? Was a former priest, defrocked for becoming a communist. Defrocked by whom? The Catholic Church. He was a foreign minister under the communist Sandinista regime. that brings him into the Western Hemisphere, doesn't it? And then now he is leading the UN effort for total global control of the United States. Now, that sounds like it's contracted and focused strictly on the United States. But the way the United States goes, so goes the rest of the world. In fact, the rest of the world is way ahead of us. It's been socialized or is socialistic or Marxist or what have you. And the objective is we've got to transform the U.S., the United States of America, into a socialist or Marxist country to get in line with basically what? A one world government. Now, question, who is this man?
Can't be Obama, it's not like that.
He's a relative of Obama, you said? Okay. His name is Miguel Diaz-Coto. You may have heard his name from time to time in the news, particularly probably when you listen to, BBC on late afternoon news report. He is the UN General Assembly President, all right? So he's a ranking powerhouse there. He won, we just read all about this. He is a known communist. We're going to jump over here. What's even more alarming, Barack Obama's UN ambassador, Susan Rice, proclaimed, quote, the United States has placed the highest priority on supporting Diaz-Coto's socialist schemes. Okay? Make no mistake about it, Diaz-Coto, Rice, and Obama are talking about destroying the very system of freedom that made the United States the envy of the world. How many of you have seen 2016, the movie? Mm-hmm. All right, you get the history of Obama, his values and cultures derived from his tromping around Africa and thereabouts. He's very much on the same page as this guy and the UN and the thugs in the UN who despise the United States. They want to break our sovereignty and get us in line. Of course, this is satanically what Satan is up to. He wants to destroy the church or be relieved of the influence of the church and also the influence of the United States. He wants a one-world government and a one-world false religious system. Remember, though, not stated as the principal aims of the New Age movement. New Age movement, one world government, one world false religious system, a New Age Christ. But behind it is Satan's objective for those principal aims being met. So he can use that accomplished set of aims for the destruction of what? Every living Jew on planet Earth. When you get that, those of you who are computer experts, when you get that file page layered in behind every one of these things, then you're getting the big picture. All right, now, we just want to get right down to this.
Pretty interesting stuff there.
Yeah, the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, and he also refers here in this article, the Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts. All right, he's Congress, he's the court. All right, they want to subvert our U.S. Constitution. Does that sound familiar? And banning UN foreign laws in America. Now, Richard, for your benefit, last week we may have mentioned the fact that this guy, Chief Justice John Roberts, plus 7 other Supreme Court justices, minus Supreme Court Justice Alito, met behind closed doors in the Supreme Court a few days before the swearing in of Obama, while there were 8 pending lawsuits against Obama in terms of requiring him to submit his documents to prove that he is naturally a natural-born citizen. Every single one of those cases has either been dismissed or has never been heard. They've never allowed those cases to move forward.
The commentary I got on some of this was that Supreme Court justice is the one we got to be most leery of, and it was said behind closed doors in a very low profile, was John Roberts. He was the oddball, and that was kept very low, very few people, and knew that at the time when he was sworn in. Everybody thought he was going to be the pro, but behind closed doors, not in knowing at the time, but a lot of people that knew him said he would be the oddball.
Yeah. Well, now, when you take our three major branches of government, executive,
Roberts,
legislative, and the courts, all three branches, it is very evident that they are completely corrupted and they're sold out. And that makes it an exceedingly dangerous because among the three of them, they're subverting our U.S. Constitution. Now, John Boehner, the more I've watched him, the more I'm convinced he's, now I'm not trying to get into politics, but he's not of the old Republican school. He's a rhino, I believe, and I just read a report out of the New American, and I'll have a copy of that article for you next week. John Boehner in the Republican National Convention, he too had a teleprompter. And when they took a vote as to dealing with the Tea Party delegates and Ron Paul's delegates, what happened was a lawyer came down from presumably from Massachusetts for Mitt Romney, and he right there on the spot in Tampa put a motion for changing the rules for selecting or recognizing delegates. And the rule change was, in effect, what it accomplished, and they unethically allowed that to come to a vote, because here the primaries have run the courses, the people have made known who they want, and delegates were present there who were behind Ron Paul, because Ron Paul is one of the founders of the Tea Party, I understand. In any case, every single one of those delegates were thrown over into Mitt Romney's camp by the revised rules, which, of course, hey, you start out a game with rules, and at the end of the game, you change all the rules. And Boehner was announcing the results of the vote, and apparently the vote wasn't going that well. It looked awful close. It shouldn't have been a voice by voice. It should have been by head count. But the teleprompter said, "Say the yeas win," meaning that the rules were changed.
I saw that on YouTube. I looked that up, and you couldn't tell the difference. Like,
by the voice.
Yeah.
It was too close.
Yeah. And then they were mad after.
Yeah, and the same thing. Now, what happened was all of Ron Paul's delegates and the Tea Party delegates, they lost a voice in the establishment of the platform, and they had a busload coming in for a requirement. They were going to demand an appeal or a revote or something of that nature. A large contingent coming in on a big bus, and they were coming into the hotel parking lot, and that bus wasn't allowed on that parking lot. They could not get into the convention in time for opposition to that vote. So that's very disconcerting, and that tells me Boehner is just he's a lapdog doing what the establishment wants. I'm only dwelling on this not in terms of politics, but in terms of subverting our U.S. Constitution, and they want to use the Supreme Court to make a clear ruling banning the UN foreign laws in America. Well, how can you count on this guy to do that? You see, the subversion is taking place. It is only by the mercy of God that this country will ever be able to turn around.
Yeah, I say John Roberts was doing this for his own personal gain.
Well, I'm sure that Soros and company, these guys are probably, they're set for life. They don't have to lift a finger. As my Jewish parents used to say, money will buy anything and everything.